Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, Open University.
Hello friends, Namaskar. This is Dr. Jaini Shah, Assistant Professor of English from Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University. I welcome you all to this video lecture series that the university is preparing for BA in English course, and today I am going to deal with a short story. Now my friends, short story is a very interesting form of literature. It is the simplest form of literature because we can say in general sense that one can finish reading a short story in a single sitting. That is, basically it's a short story, few words length, few pages length, and it deals with a particular mood or an event which the author writes for his own, for his different purposes. It may be to inform, to preach, to let us know about the events or phenomena which are either dealing with fiction or non-fiction. Mostly it is fiction because the term itself says it is a short story. So today I am going to deal with one such short story which is written by Nathaniel Hawthorne, as you can see over here in the PPT. On the right is the portrait of the author. He is a very famous American novelist and a short story writer. He was born in 1804 in Salem, Massachusetts, USA, and he died in the year 1864. As I said, American novelist and a short story writer. He is regarded as one of the greatest fiction writers in American literature. And he is the master of allegorical and symbolic tale. As I said, that there are various purposes for an author to write a short story. Mostly it is imaginative and fiction, but there are some, like Hawthorne, who write short stories which are based on true events and which are meant to evoke certain kind of emotions, and they are allegorical as well as symbolic tales. Allegorical stories or fiction or literature is meant to evoke a hidden meaning. Allegory is something which has a hidden meaning, and you as readers have to decipher what the author is trying to portray with the story. He has written so far 8 novels, 8 story collections, and several non-fiction works. And Fanshawe was his first novel, and the very famous ones which are still researched upon. The novels are topics of research from based on feminism point of view, symbolic point of view, Christianity point of view, so on and so forth. Such novels are The Scarlet Letter, published in the year 1850, as well as The House of the Seven Gables, published in the year 1851. And Hester Prynne, friends, Hester Prynne is a character from the novel The Scarlet Letter, and she is the most famous characters from the feminism perspective, and she is a woman condemned by her Puritan neighbors as portrayed in The Scarlet Letter, and it is said that she is among the first and most important female protagonists in American literature. So Hester Prynne is a very well characterized female of American literature. So this is a basic introduction of the author Nathaniel Hawthorne, American short story writer as well as a novelist. Moving further, let us have a look at Hawthorne's writing style. His fiction works are about dark romanticism. Now, what is dark romanticism? It is a subgenre of Romanticism, and it deals with particular elements such as the irrational, the demonic, and the grotesque. Irrational is basically sometimes we cannot get the answers by logic or by rational. That is what is meant by irrational. That is, you have to believe in some supernatural elements, some functioning or some law of nature which is beyond human understanding. Demonic, certain characters, elements, events, descriptions are such that they evoke demonic atmosphere, demonic mood is created. And the grotesque, that is, we tend to get the dislike of the particular event or the particular character because the way it has been narrated or described or characterized. He also deals with the genres such as Gothicism, invoking horror, and Gothicism is a mixture of fiction, horror, and elements like death and romance. So, a very unusual kind of writing, and his writings are based on the morals and principles which are preached by the Bible, the Christianity, and his setting, mostly he writes with Puritan setting. So Puritan religion, Puritan values is what he bases his writing upon. Now Hawthorne's writing centers on New England. So New England, my friends, has nothing to do with the UK, the United Kingdom, or the Britain. New England is a region in United States of America. He is an American writer, and he takes the setting of New England, which is a region in America, and he takes this background for his plot, and he bases his novels and short stories in New England. His works often focus on history, that is, he takes events from the past. The works are based on true events. He bases his works on morality, that is, what is right and what is wrong, good deeds, bad deeds, sin and redemption, right? He bases his works on that. And religion, as I mentioned before. And major themes that his works describe, or his works are about, they are guilt, sin, evil, wrongdoing, and the guilt of the person, sin, and the judgment day, when after death your afterlife begins and you are answerable to God, you are answerable for your deeds on earth. And guilt, sin, and evil, he portrays or he describes them in such a way that they come out as being natural and inherent human tendency. So it is a belief that it is to human, right? So it is an inherent human tendency to make mistakes, to commit sins, and that is what he proclaims in his works. And his stories contain moral messages as well as deep psychological complexity. As I said, it is not very easy to decipher his characterization, and Hester Prynne is one of the examples of his works, that it is a very psychologically complex woman character. So this is his style of writing and basically what he deals with. So now you know that today's story, The Minister's Black Veil, what it is going to be about and how it is going to be about, right? So let us move further. Okay, so the title of the story is The Minister's Black Veil, written by Nathaniel Hawthorne, and it was written as early in the 1832. And just a trivia, not to mix up, not to get confused by the title, because there are two similar titles present in English literature. The first is called The Black Veil. It is a short story by Charles Dickens, which is a different story altogether. Another title is Long Black Veil. It is a novel by Jennifer Finney Boylan. So, and what we are dealing with is totally different. It is Nathaniel Hawthorne's story, The Minister's Black Veil, published in the year 1832. Having said that, the story was published in a short story collection of Hawthorne, which was entitled The Token and the Atlantic Souvenir. This was first published in the short story collection titled So. Now the story again, it was republished in the collection Twice Told Tales in the year 1837. So this is the general information of the short story that we are going to learn today about it. And as I said, many of his stories and novels are inspired by a true event, and then he builds fiction around it to prove his point, or to give the readers certain moral messages regarding Puritan values, regarding Christianity, so on and so forth. So now this is the true event. There was a clergyman. Clergyman is a post in a church. A clergyman named Joseph Moody of York in America. He was nicknamed as Handkerchief Moody. Now this clergyman accidentally killed a friend when he was a young man, and after that he wore a black veil from the man's funeral until his own death. So this clergyman committed a sin. Killing someone is a sin. It's a crime. It should not be done. But there were certain circumstances which we do not know, that this clergyman killed a young man. And then he was guilty of his sin, because of course he knows that whatever he has done is unethical, is immoral, and it should not be done. So he is feeling guilty in his conscience, and therefore he wears, as a symbol of his guilt, he wears a black veil on his face, and he keeps this veil until he dies, okay, for his lifetime. So this is a true event. Now, on the basis of this true event, Hawthorne has written a story, which we are going to know what the story contains. But before that, it is very necessary to know certain terms, because these are going to be main and recurring terms in the entire story. The title itself suggests the minister's black veil. So who is the minister? Friends, in Christianity, a minister is a person who is authorized by a church to perform functions such as teaching of beliefs. A minister is a person who is responsible to teach Christian beliefs to the audience, to the people who come to the church for services, for masses, for prayers. And he is also responsible to leading services such as weddings, baptisms, or funerals, as well as providing spiritual guidance to the community. So this is the role of the minister. Now, moving further to the term called veil. What is a veil exactly? It is a piece of fine material worn to protect or conceal the face. Now, in Indian canvas, veil can be better understood with an Indian term that is called parda, right? In many communities in India, still today as well as in olden times, women used to wear parda, which is still there. This tradition is still there in certain parts of the country. Now, what we understand by the term parda, similarly, that is what we understand by the term veil. Now, veil can come in variety of colors, but here there is a black veil, and it has a different meaning when we call it a black veil. Puritan setting, it is moral and religious earnestness. It is a sense of the elect chosen by God to live godly lives, both as individuals and as a community. Now, Puritans had this belief that they are elected, they are the chosen few by God Himself to live a morally fit life on the earth, to live a life which is directed by beliefs and principles of Puritanism, and that is that they are answerable for their deeds to God. So, this was the moral and religious earnestness that Puritans believed in, and this is the setting, this becomes the backdrop of the short story. Now, before moving any further, here is a picture of the minister's black veil. You can see the parda or the veil which is covered the face but the chin, okay, and here is the minister with his attire, and this is how he looks throughout the story that Hawthorne narrates. Now, I would like to start with the summary or highlighting the major events of the story. You can, of course, read the original or the primary source of the story. It is a very interesting read, and you will come to know many deeper meanings of life, of religion, of morality that Hawthorne describes in the story. Now, in the small Puritan town of Milford, a young minister whose name is Reverend Hooper, he walks in the church. Now, as we know that it is the minister's responsibility to teach the beliefs and principles to the community. So, on one of the meetings, on one of the prayers, he walks into the church who the minister called Reverend Hooper. Hooper is wearing a black veil that covers his entire face except for his mouth and chin. The photograph that you just saw, you can relate it to this. This sight is very disturbing for the community, for the townspeople who have gathered in the church, because it is very unusual for a minister to cover his face while delivering a sermon, while delivering a lecture. Some also think that Hooper has gone insane. There is some mental instability in Hooper that which has led Hooper to do this kind of a thing, and no one is comfortable with minister's look. He delivers his sermon for the day normally as he would on any other day. Now, there is no difference found in the way he delivers the sermon. He is perfectly delivering it the way he usually does. He wears his veil wherever he goes. Okay. Now, once he has worn it, he is not ready to remove it at any cost. In a funeral service, he wears the veil, and Hooper's veil is appropriate for the occasion, because in Christianity they wear a veil whenever they are attending a funeral. So that is accepted, that is normal for the community. And he bends over the body. Now, there is a death of a young woman in the community, and he has to do the service of the funeral. He is wearing the veil, and he bends over the dead body of a young woman so that the woman could see his face as if she were alive, and quickly covers his face again. Now, this is very symbolic, because throughout the story, we as readers are not told by Hawthorne that what is exactly the reason that Hawthorne is wearing this black veil. So there are certain events through which you have to interpret that, okay, this may be the reason that the minister is wearing the veil, and one of the reasons is this, that there is the death of a young woman, and maybe a minister is guilty of committing a sin with the young woman, and that is why he is wearing the veil. Now you can relate it to the true event that Joseph Moody, he committed a murder, and that is why he is wearing a veil after the funeral. In the night, Hooper performs a wedding for a young couple wearing his veil. Now, after the funeral, there is a wedding happening in the community, and he has to offer his services in the wedding as well. Now, here in the wedding, which is a very pleasant atmosphere, pleasant setting, and celebratory setting, and over there he carries his veil, which is a symbol of loneliness, which is a symbol of guilt, which is a symbol of sin, which has no place in the occasion called wedding. But he is adamant on wearing it, and he continues to wear it even in the wedding as well. Moving further, now there is a character called Elizabeth. Elizabeth is Reverend Hooper's fiancée, and she asks Hooper to show her his face and explain that why he has to cover it. Because normally, why would a person cover his face? Whenever he feels guilt inside, whenever he feels that whatever he has done is not right and he is not worthy enough to show his face to the world. So Elizabeth wants to know that what has gone wrong and why he is wearing the veil. Hooper refuses and says that all humans have sins. It is human to err, it is human to commit sin. In magnitude may differ. Sins may be small or they may be large in magnitude. But every human being, once in his lifetime, he cannot say that he has led a totally sinless life, right? So this is the same thing Hooper says, that all humans have sins. All humans have secrets. All humans have the guilt of sins committed. He says that when they are reunited in the afterlife, that is, when they are dead, when they are both dead, and when they meet in the afterlife, he will release the veil, he will unveil himself, and he will tell her the reason. But he is not going to tell the reason right now to Elizabeth. Now, Elizabeth is very disturbed with this unusual behavior of Hooper, and she finally decides to break off her engagement with Minister Hooper. Hooper, with this, slowly and gradually, he is isolated from the entire community, because there is the thing that happens that once you wear a veil, you have created certain isolation area for yourself where no one else is welcome for a talk or to share your sins or to share your guilts with or to share your thoughts with. So there is a distance that is created between the minister and the community due to the veil. And some believe that Hooper is insane, but most say that he has committed a horrible sin or crime, and he is paying for his sin by wearing a veil. That is, he is punishing himself for the sin that he has committed. But over the time, what happens is, maybe it is due to the will that it has made him an extremely impressive preacher. His will has cut him off with the other pleasures of life, and that is how he has imbibed the principles and the morality of the Puritanism of Christianity so well that it has made him an impressive preacher. His speeches are more powerful, more meaningful, more darker, and his reputation as a preacher stretches across New England. It is now not only limited to the town of Milford, but it has reached to the entire region of New England. Years pass, and now the young Hooper has grown older and sicker. On his deathbed, he is nursed by Elizabeth. Now, Elizabeth, who broke off her engagement with Milford, she has not married anyone else, and she has not broken her ties with Minister Hooper, and so she is worried about Hooper and she comes to uh, care for Hooper because she has continued to love him despite never marrying him. Now, a group of clergymen, including the young Reverend Clark, they gather up around Hooper because allegedly Hooper is on a deathbed. And everyone, the community, praises him for his moral reputation. Because, as I said, this wearing of veil has uh, resulted into cutting off a reverend from the worldly pleasures and taking him more near to the principles of Christianity. They beg him to allow them to remove his veil so that they may see the face of a good man who is living by the virtues and who is living by the principles of God. Hooper shouts that this veil must never be removed and must never be lifted while he is on the earth. He is going to die wearing the veil. The veil would be only removed when he attains the afterlife or the eternal life. With his dying words, Hooper says that when he looks around, he sees a black veil on each and every face. I may be the one who is wearing a black veil, actually, physically, but every face I see around me, I can see a black veil on every face. Though each person is not wearing it, I can see it. Why? Because the earlier message of the story that all humans are capable of committing sins. And as a result, I can see a black veil on every face, though he or she may not be wearing it. So I am not the only one who is wearing the veil. You all are actually carrying an invisible black veil on your faces. The clergyman, now eventually he dies, and the clergyman bury Hooper with his face still covered with a black veil. And story ends over here. Now quickly we will have a glance at the major themes that the story portrays. One is Puritanism. It is a belief that humankind have inherited sin from the original Adam and Eve when they were the first ones who committed sin, and after that humankind has inherited the sin of Adam and Eve, and good behavior and religious education can lead to eternal afterlife, that is living by the principles. Okay. Alienation, the gradual alienation of Milford that happens from alienation of Hooper that happens in the Milford is that restriction, strict behavior, denial of indulgence, pleasure, friendship. He cut off his ties with Elizabeth as well. So alienation is a very important theme that Hawthorne talks about. Now it has its various forms, that is restriction, strict behavior, denial of indulgence, worldly pleasures, friendship, any bonds, close bonds with other people. No, this is all restricted, and that is what alienates minister. Guilt, secret sins that the humans commit, and they are trying to atone for all sins. They are repenting, and it is a reminder to the community, the veil. Secret is hidden sins and crimes. That the final sentence that he says, that I can see the black veil on every face, is what culminates the message that Hawthorne is trying to give through the story. The black veil is the major symbol itself. Hooper's veil is a clear sign that he is trying to atone for a grave sin that he has committed. He is very guilty for the sin that he has committed. A symbol of mankind's general sinfulness, not any specific wrongdoing, right? Symbol of each one's sin who does not acknowledge it. Now, here is another point of view, that since he is the minister who is responsible for the preaching of the community, he chooses to wear the veil because it symbolizes the sins of the entire community, not any particular person's wrongdoing. Now, the veil is also a symbol of thin, flimsy article of clothing, and it's a symbol of the superficiality of a Puritan society. And judging on his appearance, why superficiality? Because the community judges him on his outer appearance, that he is wearing a black veil, maybe he is insane, maybe there is something wrong. But the community fails to introspect that why the minister is wearing the veil, and if he, being the minister, is wearing the veil, maybe we also are responsible for the sins that we have committed, and we must respect whatever he is doing. So that is why superficiality of the community. Hooper himself doesn't change, he only seems gloomier to the townspeople because of the veil. And on the other hand, he is prideful of his veil because at least he is repenting for the sins that he has committed. And although he hides his face from the town, doing so paradoxically makes him more visible to others. He is hiding his face, right? But whenever he walks out, he is the most visible person because that is what separates him from the entire community. So there is a paradox over here in the symbol of black veil also. So having given you the entire idea of the story, here are the resources that you can use for further reading, for further references and in-depth analysis of the story. The first one is the text reference, and the other one is the short clip which you can watch to get the better understanding of the story. So, all right, here I end this lecture. Thank you very much for joining with us, and I hope to see you next time. Until then, goodbye.